Hello and welcome to another Wardy's Waffle Farm update. A packed video this week, lots going on as always this time of the year, and we look at various crops emerging, how they're coming on. So we're looking at sugar beet on the light and heavy soils, we're looking at spring oats, and also a quick look at spring beans and spring barley. So they're the four sort of spring crops that we grow. Also, the sludge heap behind me, we've had quite a lot of questions last week I had from people wondering about putting a sludge heap on a growing crop like this and the cost implications of that. So I'll look at some facts and figures with that. Still got a lot of this coming into the farm, which is great. And we also have a detailed look at our direct drilling demo plots. So I go into all those in quite detail and just look at how they're coming on and germinating, and there's some quite big differences. So anyway, let's crack on with this week's update. Please come back with any questions, subscribe and like as normal, click the bell sound to alert you when I post the videos, and here we go with this week. Looking around one or two of the wheats, and as I see, the nitrogen that we put on at the end of last week has just scorched things a little bit. You just look at some of these plants, the ends of the leaves are yellow. There's just a sort of a bit of a yellow tinge to the wheats. You can just see the plants, and that was caused by the wind and spreading. We maybe ought to have stopped last week when we were spreading, because it was probably 25-30 miles an hour wind, and I know that's what can scorch. It's not bad, but I don't like to see it. This is the bridge that we put in, the culvert. Remember, we put that big pipe in last autumn just for the winter. We've just got it to finish off, just got all the ends to sandbag up when it gets a bit dry, because we've got to bring some cement down this grass margin. In fact, we're probably going to stone that and make it into a lane. But yeah, looking into this other field, that's a footpath across the field, public footpath. And for those of you who are looking at this in another country, we have these all across the UK. Even though it's our own land, we have to spray them out by regulation or by law. Yeah, Nala's attacking Frankie. We have to spray them out by law, and if we don't, we can get prosecuted. It's a really ancient regulation and an ancient thing, because these footpaths were put in years and years ago, before vehicles were invented, and it was when people used to walk from village to village. And you can just see in the distance there is a church spire just up there over that hilltop, and that is the village of Caythorpe, and this footpath goes from there all the way across the fields, across the rest of our fields, to that church there, which is Brantbruton, the other side of the A17. And you have to keep all these footpaths open, and footpaths are 1 metre wide, so we have to spray the crop out, keep it clear, or mark it if it's in a newly cultivated field, so that people know where to walk. So just looking back in this week, you can see this is particularly badly what we call tipped. You can see the yellow tinge to it. I'll just take that one off there. Just a bit more than I'd like to see, really, and this is all down to the wind. And of course, you take green leaf area out. Green leaf area is photosynthesis, for light, for attracting into the plant, for yield, and you take green leaf area out, and that also takes the grain off at harvest. It reduces obviously the plant's ability to intercept light and turn that into yield. So yeah, just a little bit more damage here than I'd like to see. And if you're wondering what we sprayed these with, we've got a little sprayer we put on the back of the Polaris, the ATV, and we can switch nozzles on and off. We put curtains on to spray it. And looking at that, Tom hasn't quite got his inbuilt GPS in his head switched on. We haven't got GPS on the machine, so you're line of sight, and yeah, a little bit curved there. Obviously a sign there denoting it's a public footpath. So one load in and one out. This is the second load today coming in. There'll be about 22,000 litres on there, and our bowser here, there's something like 17,500 litres on the bowser. That's going out to the sprayer. We're just finishing off putting some nitrogen on the spring barleys that were late drilled. and he's brought some more to put some more into these tanks to keep them topped up. So this is the wagon that's just arrived, and it's transferring its load into that tank. So this is 30% nitrogen, and this is what we use all the time. Can't quite see where that level is in that tank. You can see that one, just see where that dark line is there. But generally, if you come up the back, and you can see where that tank is down there. But generally, if you come up the back of them, you can see the line better because the light comes through the front. So it's Omex we use, and they're only just up the road from us. Great to have the contact with a local company like we do. Ruben is just washing the sprayer off. We've finished liquid nitrogen now. He's now going to spray some herbicides on the sugar beet, which will be the first herbicide application. So Ruben's just washing the fertilizer off. It's sticky and it rusts everything, but we have changed this sprayer. Well, I shall keep you in suspense a bit longer and tell you what we've actually gone for. I've come to our sugar beet field. We've got on the light Lincolnshire heathland. You can tell the soil type because of all the stone in it, free draining soil. And there's the remnants of the sewage sludge that we've incorporated into the soil. There's 90% of it gets incorporated, and you can see straight away there's a sugar beet plant. That's some fat N weed. You can just see looking at how much rubbish and broadleaf weeds there are germinating now. Sugar beet rows here are 20 inches apart, so that's a beet plant there, and then the next row to it is there, and all those weeds you can see in between there are broadleaf weeds that we have to kill because they'll outcompete the crop. So there's a lot looking here, and you can just see here massive patch just coming up here that's green. Just through here. So we've just sprayed this. Ruben's just sprayed it. The sprayer's just left the field. And you can see here the amount of rubbish there is here. It's full. So it'd be interesting to see, come here in a few days time, a week's time, see how much it's taken out. We're going to actually have to come into here probably within the next week to 10 days to do it again, because the spray we've just put on will only sort of seriously check these. It'll need another one fairly soon to kill these, so we'll come and have a look at it and see the difference. But yeah, at the minute sugar beet's looking quite good on this light land. Just trying to deliver some haylage this week, and we've had the ram break on the grab, so we've got one of the spare horse rams that we've got in the shed that we got from Horse and Simba a few years ago, but it's way too big for what we want, but we haven't got to buy it, so we're just putting a reducer on here and everything, and a flow restrictor so we can restrict the flow, because I think that's the problem with it. There's too much oil pressure and it's bending the ram, and it's bent that bracket you can see there as well, and bowed that down. So we've just got this sorted last night, and we're just going to trying to find a bend so that we can put that pipe on there like that, and then that one will go to the tractor and this one will go to the tractor. So we'll see if we can get it working, get this load of haylage delivered that we're going to need to get to Newark. Just looking for some fittings to see if there's a 90-degree bend to make that pipe. We've got all these spare fittings, but doesn't look like we've got one. So we're not quite right, it needs a bit more pressure on. So what happens here is the oil supply goes in from the forklift down here, goes up through the cables, in the side of this reducing block there. We regulate it, that goes into the ram, the pressure we need. The surplus oil then comes out through here, back into the line and round into that T, and then back out and back into the forklift. That's how it works. But so it will grip one bale but not two, and I think obviously when there's not, yeah, it just slips out. It needs that valve up there just tensioning up a bit, just let a bit more oil through. Yeah, so there's not enough pressure on there, hydraulic pressure. I'm in our heavier land sugar beet now, and we're just putting the first herbicide on. Ruben's just across to the side of the field here. We'll see him in a second. And this sugar beet's germinated quite well. You can see the rows behind me towards the distance, but despite it being dry, it's quite good. We're putting only two herbicides on here compared to the 5 or 6 you saw in the last field, and these are Jupiter and Volcano, the product names in here, and there's nowhere near the volume of weeds that we've got in the other one. So we'll just turn the camera around and have a look at these in a bit more detail. So there's the sugar beet rows showing up well. Despite it being dry, this field was planted, I think, about March the 26th or 7th from memory. And yeah, you can see it's very dry. See all the lumps of soil and the cracking opening up. And the soil generally is dry. We've got the soil cracking there, more cracks showing here. But the sugar beet is growing well. Got some nice plants there, but the weeds are growing there, and this is why Ruben's spraying it. So yeah, Ruben's putting first herbicide on. We're putting a mixture of Volcano and Jupiter on there, the product names on here, to control these weeds. And most weed here's fat end looking at those two. We suffer bindweed as well, and a bit of red shank, and a bit of volunteer rape. But at the minute, that spray that Ruben's doing should do a good job. Putting 100 litres a hectare of water on. We're using the fine nozzles to put quite a mist across, you can see, so we hit these small weeds like that. But at the minute, pleased with this, despite it being really dry. Particularly heavy, stronger clay patch here. And we're just lacking a bit in plants in this area, I can see. Got one there, another one there, but just a bit of a gap without any. And in fact, there's a sugar beet seed that hasn't been buried properly when we planted the crop. But yeah, very dry just here. You can see the cracks in the ground. Just wanting a good drink. We're carrying on the deliveries of the sewage sludge at the moment, and I've had a few people ask me questions on the comments last week, saying that the amount of crop area, or the amount of crop we're losing due to the stockpile here, and also the panels that we've got down here for the lorries to run on, surely that's a huge amount of money, and we ought to be tipping it elsewhere across the farm on hard standing. But to be honest, and also a question was, why don't we take it after harvest? Well, we can't take it after harvest because there isn't time to get all the deliveries on. We'll have about 12,000 tonnes in stockpiles on the farm when it's finished, and this is just one farm, and the amount of tonnes that Severn Trent have to deliver out, it's just not physically possible to get it all harvested. And the other thing is, quite often we'll combine a field and harvest the field, and then we'll get the spreaders in and spread this the day after harvest to get it incorporated straight away. So really, this is the best option. The amount of money we lose is negligible compared to the good and the benefit that this brings in, because don't forget, there's a huge amount of nitrogen, phosphate, sulphur, and a load of trace elements in this as well. That's another 20 tonnes delivered. Nala, here, come on, good girl. Good girl, Nala. Good girl. Just shows how dry it is. In fact, the lorry's run off the panel onto the soil now and is not making a mark hardly at all. Driving back down the farm road, and another lorry here waiting to go down. To the pile and tip. Beans looking good. Stop so we can focus on them. This field was soloed and pressed last autumn and then drilled with the free flow drill about the 25th of March. So just touching on the questions I've had about how many pounds do we lose by having a stockpile in the field here. This stockpile here is about 500 tonnes, just under, for a 45 acre field of wheat here behind me. We've got this track, this area here where the plastic tracking was laid down as well, put down. So altogether this total area for the trackway and the heap is around about 490 square metres or square yards. And when you look at that per hectare, that equates to 0.12 of a hectare, or about 0.12 of an acre, or about 0.05 of a hectare. That's how much area is taken up with this stockpile and damage we've done with this putting the trackway down. When you look at roughly, if we say did 11 tonnes a hectare or 4.5 tonnes an acre, the total grain lost here is only half a tonne, about half a tonne of grain. So for the amount of good that this does bringing it in now, meaning we can get it spread straight after harvest when we want, losing half a tonne of grain at today's prices of £300 a tonne, £150 for crop loss here, I think is well worth it. And don't forget, we've got a heap there as well, and a smaller heap. That field's a lot smaller, it's only half the size, so we've lost about half the amount we've lost in this crop. So just there, a bit of an explanation and why we actually do prefer to stockpile now and lose this bit of crop here than we do after harvest and risk not getting it when we want it. Just having a quick look at some of the oats on one of the contract farms that we run. These are the same as our other oats, Oliver variety. Come through really well, good germination here. And this land was soloed and pressed last autumn, and then we just run straight into with the free flow drill, and good germination here. We're just in the middle of putting some fungicides and herbicides on the wheat. Here's Reuben coming back. Cloud of dust down the lane, just shows you how dry it is. Coming back for another tank full to fill up. So, sad times, because that Quadtrac is leaving. Here's the lorry come to pick it up. It's the third Quadtrac we've had. We've been on them probably about 20 years, I think, somewhere in that region. And really, it was sad time really, but it's needed, necessary. The Quadtrac, I suppose, when you look, it's changed how we farmed years ago with the solo, and it's responsible for a lot of our soil conditions that are really fantastic. I suppose also you could say for helping get rid of blackgrass with the delayed drilling and the 8 metre free flow drill it's pulled. So yeah, but we just don't need that horsepower anymore, and with all the fuel prices and costs and fuel uses this tractor has, we're working shallower, we're working moving less soil, we're direct drilling more. We just don't need a Quadtrac anymore. So there will be a different colour arriving on the farm in September, and we haven't had that make for probably 10, 11 years, I think, something like that. Tom's just getting on it now to load it up. That's it. This will be the last time I think we see a Quadtrac in this yard, unless we get somebody in to do a bit of contract work for us that the smaller tractor, the newer one we're going to get, can't manage. Just folding the mirrors in for transport. Just going to pop it on the weigh bridge just to see what the whole thing weighs. No, not that heavy, you're fine. Shut your eyes, you'll be all right. So that's it. Goodbye Quadtrac. So that's it, the end of an era for us. But hopefully it's the right decision, I'm sure it is. Branches are a bit low. That's it. Thank you for being a fantastic tractor. I'm now down in the field and you can see this line behind me just down here, and this is the edge of the headland where we planted the outsides and all the rest of the field that wasn't put in on the direct drilling day. We did all this with the free flow, and there's a big difference at the minute, but also needs pointing out as well that obviously the first metre or 2 metres of that there is some overlap from the plots drilled that way, so the line, there is a double seed there as well, I think, that's showing up, but it does just show how good a germination we've got with the free flow. And also when we're looking on the headlands here as well, we can just see behind me it's green, it's showing up, and this, from remember seeing the video a couple of weeks ago how hard it was and really dry, but we've got some sort of decent emergence. As I said, probably 60-70% emergence here, considering we haven't had any rain. I think that's quite good, but just looking here you can see how rough and dry it is when you start looking. But there are some plants, but as I say, without the rain we've got sort of average germination, and I'm wondering if I can scratch down. No, it's too hard and dry to see. We did put some slug pellets on. You can see there's a slug pellet. I've just uncovered it somewhere there. Got a slug pellet there because there was some slug damage on here. But no, I can't find it. It's too hard. Oh, there's some seed that's just got a root hold. Look at that. That's interesting. Just got a root in it, but it's only just gone into moisture. But of course, it's struggling now because it's been so dry. But we'll go down the field now and we'll have a look at individual plots. I have got some plant counts, but I haven't time to post it now on this week, so it'll make this week's video too long. But I'm going to spend a more in-depth look next week at all the plant counts of every plot, and spend most of next week's video looking at the full impact of every one of the drills here. But we're going to go down now and I will name every single plot. But just remember, when we had the actual day, that we actually did have to drill the half the plots in the afternoon after lunch when we'd had a lot of rain, and it was actually raining at lunchtime when a lot of these plots, the second half, were drilling. So where one plot finishes, that was finished in the rain, and yet where the other plot started, that was done in the morning, because we started all the plots at the same side going across the field. But I'll point it out as we're going down them, walking down the field. So I'm just starting at the end of the field that we planted 9 days after the drill demo. Just see wheeling there. But this is with the free flow drill, this area, because this is all the area where the cars were parked and we had a few trade stands and things like that. But generally, yeah, pleased with this emergence and the plants that are here, but you can see how dry it is. We're now in the free flow plot, and this is the area that was planted before lunch when it was dry and going really good conditions. And you can see there what it's like. Plants decent size, dry obviously from the cracks, but looking quite good. We're now just coming to the last breed in the free flow plot, but this was planted when it was wet at lunchtime. See the Quadtrac track mark there, but that is the dividing line between the next plot, and on my left here we have the weaving Sabertine, and yeah, not quite as good as a free flow, you can see that on the right, but still quite decent when you're looking at the rows. But there is much more evidence here of slotting compared to the free flow, and remember this was done when it was dry, when it was in good conditions before lunch, but still not bad, quite good. We're now just coming to the last breed in the weaving plot, but what I have noticed is this, remember, was planted when it was raining, so not good conditions. There was a big difference with the free flow before and after lunch when it was dry and not so dry, but here there isn't. There's still slotting available or visible, you can see there. Maybe not quite so many plants as there was in the other part, but still not so much difference as there was in the free flow. So now we're moving on to the next plot. You can see the cane there, and this plot is the Amazon Cayenne. Now I'm very disappointed here because we've got some really good emergence here, probably maybe slightly better than the weaving, and this bit here, remember, was planted before lunch. But unfortunately, every single breed of this Amazon machine, this Amazon drill, the tramline mechanism was activated, so it's missed some rows. So when we get the combine across here and put some proper data into these, this plot is not going to be represented very well, because look here, we've got tram lines, so 2 rows missing every 6 meters, which is going to affect the yield. But quite pleased with the germination here. More visible plants, I think, when you look there, some quite good plants. And I think this again shows the benefit of rear rollers. This Amazon drill, the same as our Simba drill, had a full width tyre packer to firm and consolidate, and I think that's why we've got germination, good germination here. We're now on the last breed of the Amazon. Tram line there again, you can see. And then we're moving here. That breed is a bit rougher there because there was a gap, so Sumo came in and filled in with their DTS, which obviously leaves it rougher. But on the left now, slightly narrow row spacing, you can see there, we have the Dale Eco, 6 metre trail Dale Eco, which is also tined. This, remember, was the first part of the plot here that put it in when it was good conditions in the morning when it wasn't raining, but still there are some slots about. You can see the slots there. Maybe not quite so many plants as the Amazon, but still not bad at all really, considering how dry, but it has slotted it. You can just see there are some slots. This is the last breed of the Dale drill. So this, where we are now, was planted when it was wet after lunch, and really I don't think there's much difference between after lunch and before lunch, the same as the weaving when you look at the soil conditions. There's the peg in the distance to mark the plot differences, or the machines. We've now moved on to this plot, which is the Claydon. A-share moves a lot more soil than the other drills, but when we get the plant counts done and post them next week, looking at this area, it's actually better than what I thought it was going to be. There isn't the cracking or the open slots that there was on the previous 2 machines. But then when you come to after lunch, which we're just coming to the line now, look at that. So the left here was planted after lunch when it was raining, and the right was when the conditions were good, when it's dry. Big difference here in this plot, probably the most difference we've seen in any of the plots. We're now just coming to the last breed of the Claydon drill. Remember, the Claydon's a strip drill, and peg in the distance to mark the different machines. We're now into the Sumo DTS, which is another strip drill, but it has created a lot more surface disturbance than the other drills if you look, and it has had an effect on germination. A lot more lumps and bigger particles of soil. Don't forget, this area here was done when it was dry before lunch. Then we're moving, it's only a 3 metre machine, so the plot's a lot narrower, and now this is the area that was planted when it was wet, when it was raining, after lunch. There are some plants. I thought we might have seen a bit more slug damage here. There is some slug damage there. You can see the holes in that leaf, but not as much as I thought. We're now on the dividing line of the Sumo DTS and the Horsch Avatar. Disc drill, and when you look down there you can see the rows quite easily, but of course that has not disturbed any ground at all, apart from where the seed is. Some of the slots still open a little bit, open there. More slug damage here. You can see that group of plants there, the leaf hollowing, chewing of the leaves there. I haven't given it any more slug pellets. You can still see there are some slug pellets still visible here, but you can see there is quite a bit of chewing on some of those leaves. So that is the Horsch Avatar. So we're now in the area of the Avatar that was planted after lunch when it was wetter, and again I don't think there's too much difference between before lunch and after lunch. It's slotted it more. The slots are still very open and visible. Plants very similar to before lunch. This again here was where the DTS came, just did a breed because there was a gap. We're now onto the plot where the Horizon DTX was, and this is good number of plants here. Less of an open slot, I think. Thank you, Nala. Less of an open slot there. Good number of plants, and possibly, oh no, there is some slug damage. You can see there they've been chewed a bit, and the edge there they have as well. We're now on the last part of the Horizon plot, and this was planted after lunch when it was raining. Definitely more open slots here compared to when it was in good conditions, and fewer plants. There is a difference here, definitely. You can see the open slots. Then we're moving on now to the last of the disc drills. See the peg in the distance, and now we are into this Sky Easy drill, which was that's like the Moore uni drill coulters and discs, and this actually is good. I know when I rolled these plots, because I rolled them myself, there was slightly more disturbance, surface disturbance here with soil, but it gave the rolls something to actually crush and consolidate and fill the slots in. And when you look at this and looking across the row, there's some good number of plants here. So this is quite good. But remember, this part here was planted before lunch when the conditions were really good. We're then moving across the plot. Yeah, looking good there. We're now in the area that was planted when it was wet after lunch, and some of the other machines didn't go very well, but this actually did put it in well. No difference here between before lunch and after lunch when it was dry and not so dry. Slug damage, yes, you can see there is some slug damage here. Chewing of the leaves generally there, even though there's a slug pellet there. Yeah, but generally quite good, and there is a definite line here. So now we're moving on to the last plot, which is a little 3 metre mounted Simtech T-Sem, and you can see a line down there, and it put it in well on the day. but there is definitely less plants here than the plot we've just looked at. And actually when you look across, I can see here from my eyes, and we can quite see on this phone and the camera how good that sky plot is when you look across it like that. But this is the Simtech. This is where it was dry here, only 3-metre machine, so a smaller plot. We're now getting to where it was when it was after lunch, when it was wetter. You can see there, more slots, less plants, definitely. Tractor wheels there, and this was on our Case Puma, 225 5 horsepower Puma. But this area, you can see now, where the wheels are, it's just struggled a bit. You can see the tractor wheelings there, and our Puma's not a heavy tractor. And when you start looking here, a bit of slug damage around here as well. You can see there, that one. And the slug pellets have all gone here. We did use Slux because obviously Metaldahi's banned last year, so we're on Slux now. And when you look at that compared to that plot next door, showing up greener where the sky is. So interesting walk down all the plots. We'll just have a walk down the other side of the field where we've done the rake through one or two of them to see if it filled in some of the slots. So that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed seeing what we've been doing on the farm this week. Lots going on as always this time of the year, and hope you've found it valuable looking at all the plots and how they're all germinating, coming through from the various machines we had on our direct drilling day. Next week we'll go on to the other side of the field. We'll put some data into it and put some plant counts on, and look at the area of all the plots that we did with the Claydon straw harrow, because again there is a difference there in some of the emergence, as there is in these plots this side of the field without the straw harrow. Just touching on the Quadtrac, you've seen it's gone, yes. Bit sad in a way, we've had 21 years of Quadtracs, 3 different Quadtracs over the years, and it really has changed our farm, changed the soil type, and it's changed how we produce crops and how we produce food. But I think really now it's proved we're working less soil, we're working shallower, we don't need 600 horsepower that we did, and hopefully the new tractor coming, which I'll post it when it comes, but it's not coming until September. It's going to be a long while before it's here. But the person who's bought our Quadtrac is a small dealer from Lincolnshire, and he's going to lend us a tractor in the few weeks, hopefully, that before the other one arrives, and that's going to be about the 25th of September when it arrives. So anyway, until next Sunday, thanks very much for watching. Come back with any questions. Cheerio.